Greetings, everyone. This is my independent oral presentation. Today, I am going to talk about the global issue of the chronic negative effect of the invasive warfare on the mental health of the invading soldiers. Let me first introduce the two literal excerpts that I have chosen for this presentation. The first excerpt is from the book, The Things They Carry, from the chapter, The Man I Killed by Tim O'Brien. So the chapter actually describes the feeling of the protagonist, Tim, after killing a young man during the Vietnam War. Tim O'Brien wrote the memoir about the experiences from the Vietnam War as a veteran. During the Vietnam War, the United States government drafted many people to invade the Vietnam, and especially after the failure of the United States, these veterans were facing significant mental issues, much more than the previous warfares from themselves and their society, that they're having some mental burdens restricting them from getting back to their society. The second excerpt I have chosen is actually a poem, R&R, by poet Brian Tuner. So Brian Tuner is also a veteran but he is from the Iraq War, when the United States invaded Iraq for some mass destructive chemical weapons. During the Iraq War, there are very significant levels of hatred from the local people as of the basis of a war. Through the experiences of killing mass amount of people during this war, whereas seeing the brothers or other soldiers around the poet to die around him, these experiences really have some long-term mental depressions significantly to those veterans when they try to continue on their lives. Also, in both excerpts, there is something called R&R, which is a military terminology. R&R is a type of treatment to the soldiers, being rest and recreation, abbreviated R&R, which is useful for the soldiers, especially after they experience some huge mental distress or significant mental burden. This is really commonly used in both excerpts, which means that R&R is commonly used for many of these soldiers when they are facing very massive mental burdens. And then that leads to my thesis statement. During the invasive warfare and long after these wars, the experience of these soldiers killing people and seeing other soldiers die make them feel guilty, and these experiences also prevent them from rejoining society and their former lives. This eventually leads to more serious long-term mental issues. Then I will be discussing about excerpt 1, which is from the book The Things They Carry. So the excerpt really tells how the protagonist feel after he first killed a man during the war. So in this chapter, there are many figurative language, such as the star in line 1 and the butterfly was going in line 4. Speaking of the star is really being a figurative language. So from some sense, it is related to comic books, because in comic books, when the character was being shocked by some huge events or being struck by some burden, when they were being busy after some huge constructions, there will be stars appearing around the characters. Thus, for here, the star here figuratively would mean that how the protagonist was feeling dizzy and depressed after killing a person, which should be a common experience for people who are first experiencing killing. On the other hand, the star can also be a figurative language referring to the national flag of the United States. For this can actually show that the Vietnam War were really drafting those normal peoples, leading them to a level of patriotism. And this really refers that these soldiers were kind of forced to be patriotic, to fight for their country when they know that this war is not very justified. on the other hand, the butterfly was really being some good, having some good connotations, but here the butterfly was gone can also show the sense of loss of purity or loss of innocence for our protagonist. Then I would like to have the attention towards line 22 to 27. For this paragraph, what the character were, our protagonists were describing was about his imagination or fantasy. So the imagination is how the person he killed would have a great life if that person was not killed by him. So in this paragraph, it says after his years at university, that man returned to the new wife and have some common relief men. And although he knew he would die quickly, but these expressions really show like if that person was not killed, how his life would be. This furtherly show how guilty our protagonist Tim was feeling due to killing someone, which this led to some further mental burdens that is long-term because he's keep imagining back even after the warfare about the person he killed. Later on, one of the very significant thing in this excerpt is the imageries used here. So in line 3, it says the body lay mostly entirely in the shade, and also in the latter part, especially at the last, he said he was a slim, dead, almost dead young man of about 20. And throughout the paragraph, there were some descriptions of how awful this scene was after the man was killed, which experiencing killing of people and seeing how worse the situation is would actually have a huge mental impact on these people, on these soldiers who would continuously recall these imageries and eventually leading to more mental burden. And mentioned in line 30, there are some mental R&R, so we can know that mental R&R was really common among these soldiers because everyone is having very serious mental burden. So this is about excerpt 1, and then I want to lead to the second excerpt about R&R, the poem R&R. So what is important about the poem R&R is first about the first stanza. In the first few lines, there were descriptions like her lip, or thinking of now my hair, or some future in the future somewhere. So these were really about the protagonist imagining about the life before the war and how the life could be after the war. That means that says for the war experience, that was really something that our protagonist, our character or our poet would not want to think of. This really shows that people were recalling the past life regarding woman, because woman is kind of like a sign of a normal life. So this means so the main character was thinking of the past life and want to escape from the war situation, especially when in line 15 to 16-ish, there are soldiers laugh and play volleyball just down the beach. So this means that everyone just want to relax, but they don't want to be involved to killing and destructing others. To like they just don't want to be in this war, but instead they want to imagine about the good things. So this means when they were forced into these wars, that was putting much more mental burden and pressure to them. When they were forced to do something that they would not want to do and they cannot justify themselves, these were just some serious mental problem. That's the source of them. Then leading to the second stanza, when it says, I'm all out of adrenaline and out of the smoking incendiaries, these were some chemical things to make people forget about what is happening right now. So from this stanza, we know that these soldiers were being so mentally burdened that they had to overuse these chemical products so they can like escape from their guiltiness and their mental depression. And when they were out of them, like that means that these chemicals were really having huge impact on them, which furtherly make them to be addicted and be more depressed about the war long after the war experiences. Especially, I would like to mention the last line, which says, "All my bullet into the barrel of the sun." Well, yeah, this line. So for this means that this means like the bullets are really some sign of the war, and it is into the barrel of the sun, where sun can be represented as a hope. Figuratively, this means how the war as a bullet has struck into all the hope and destroyed them completely. These are really some mental burdens of these soldiers. And also to mention, the title of this poem is being R&R, which directly means rest and recreation. That is the common treatment for these people when they were having mental pressure. And that's so common, meaning that these people were under so much pressure during the war and after the war. Now I would like to kind of like compare and contrast about these two excerpts, the things they carry and R&R. So for both excerpts, the protagonist or the speaker are thinking about pastime, which they were like trying to imagine how life was glad before the warfare. These imagination or fantasy can be analyzed that they were feeling so bad during the war that they have to think of the good things in the past. This from the side really reveals that how these wars were having large impact on their mental health, that they can only try to be better to think of like what are the good things before, and they will always have a hard time to recall about their war experiences even long after the war. And then I would also like to say that both protagonists are having some unwell feelings, like from the things they carry. When the protagonist first killed a person, he was sitting there without any strength. That means like physically he has collapsed. Like this can show like how this event has mentally made him collapse, that he cannot even walk, that he might just sit for all day. And for R&R, this is more of like the whole feelings when it was this is crazy, or thinking of like how the bullets were into the barrel of the sun. These were just direct relation showing that direct expressions showing that they were having some unwell feelings. And last, I would like to kind of like mention a contrast between these two. So for the things they carry, the majority of the explanation, one of the main explicit expression was about the imagination. So this is actually showing like how our protagonist is being mentally guilty, whereas for R&R, it's more of like the feelings of implicitly showing the concerns of his own feelings. Although they are completely different expressions from different perspectives, they do not necessarily contradict each other. So these two excerpts combined can give us a better sense of how the war was impacting these people, making them guilty in terms of the guilties through the thoughts or through their feelings. Both were true, showing that like these people were feeling bad. Last, I would like to conclude. So during the wars, these people are really deeply discouraged from what they have seen, whereas these things really make them to feel unwell for a very long time. Sense of guilty, contradiction feelings, and concerns in their mind made them to be suspicious about their behavior, and eventually lead them to long-term impact of their life. Relating to the world, there are many veterans after regional warfare around the world. Even recently, the United States withdrew their army from Afghanistan, and there are also a lot of people who were impacted by the war locally. So there are some major mental issues with the soldiers as well as the local people. It is important not only to prepare well for the mental health status of these people, but also fundamentally prevent the invasion warfares from happening. Thank you.